This couple named Catherine and Michael enters a white room. As they look around, they are amazed. Catherine points to a red button and suggests to Michael that he should be the one to press it. So Michael presses the red button, and immediately they are greeted by a voice announcing that they have been selected to spend 50 days in an immaculate room with the promise of earning $5 million upon completing the task. However, if one of them leaves, the prize will be reduced to $1 million for the remaining person. Upon hearing this good news, the couple excitedly runs. When they lie down on the floor, they question whether they are living a dream, and Michael says they should be grateful and mentions that they were lucky. Catherine suggests the idea of splitting the money if they win, and then asks Michael about his plans with the money. He says he won't have any more money worries, will focus on creating authentic art, and will take a spaceship to space twice. Shortly after, Michael realizes that the room is completely white as they enter the bathroom. The voice warns that the space is intended for only one participant at a time. Catherine remains inside while Michael reads the instructions on the screen. He then activates the food dispenser, releasing something similar to a milk box. Michael tries it and mentions that it's different from Shake Shack. Catherine smiles and wonders if breakfast will be better. Michael explores the room while Catherine uses the screen interface to program the automatic lights to turn off at 10 p.m. and the wake-up alarm for 7 a.m. She then asks Michael about these settings, and he responds positively, mentioning that she can adjust them according to her preference. The lights go out, accompanied by a voice indicating that night has arrived. Michael tries to entertain himself with his girlfriend, but she fears that Professor Voyan is watching them, so she suggests they keep things discreet and carry out activities under the covers. The next morning, as Catherine looks at herself in the mirror, she speaks words of encouragement to herself, aiming to help her face the day. After taking a shower, she realizes her boyfriend is already awake. Michael takes her towel and they both laugh together. Catherine grabs breakfast while Michael comments that their clothes give the impression that they both suffer from mental health problems. Catherine questions why Professor Voyan would be behaving in this manner. Michael then asks if she checked the link he sent and clarifies that it is a documentary produced by Professor Voyan. In this documentary, he found a family in the United States and invested $150 million to observe what would happen. Initially, everything was going well. The family secured contracts for television programs and commercials. However, the situation changed when the mother caught her husband involved with another woman and shot him. She ended up being convicted while the son mysteriously disappeared and their daughter faced an overdose of a harmful substance. Catherine asked him about the reasons that led the professor to act in that way, and the answer was that no one has that information, and what they know is that Voyan has a lot of money. He also mentions that 30 years ago, Voyan gave an interview in which he expressed curiosity about the human condition. Michael watches the clock counting the days in the room carefully, and then the lights intensify, accompanied by a voice announcing that it's noon. Meanwhile, Catherine dedicates herself to meditation as a way to face the situation. On that same day, Michael reveals that he hates the color white because it is an absence of color. Additionally, he also says he hates the clock. Catherine advises him not to keep staring at it. However, he continues speculating on how they wouldn't know if they had been there for 50 days, as he only has the clock as a reference. Catherine says it's too early for conspiracy theories on the second day. Despite this, Michael starts developing an aversion to everything, even noticing that the lighting changes to simulate nature. As he mentions this, the lights go out, prompting a reaction for him to rest. Katharina reminds him of the importance of staying focused on the priest, and Michael stays awake thinking, while Catherine quickly falls asleep. The next morning, Catherine follows her daily routine, uttering words of encouragement to face the challenges of the day. As she exits the bathroom, she sees Michael, who is currently confused, so she motivates him and suggests he takes a shower. Filled with anxiety, the couple decides to engage in activities to ward off boredom. They run, have fun together, and dance. While Catherine continues meditating, Michael runs around the room and stares at the clock. However, as time passes, the couple gradually loses mental stability. A few days later, during a moment of silence, Michael notices the presence of an insect on the floor. He starts a conversation with the insect, expressing the lack of visual stimuli in the room. He then names the insect Chloe. However, Catherine mentions that the insect apparently won't survive for much longer. Michael rushes to get their food to feed the insect, but the voice informs him that the food is exclusively for the participants' consumption. So Michael communicates to the voice that he is simply releasing the insect from the room and has no intention of leaving the place. And Catherine advises him not to press the button to open the door, as the system will interpret it as giving up, even though Michael continues to insist on freeing the insect, arguing that it is a living being. At this moment, the voice reminds them that if any of them leaves, the prize will be reduced to $1 million. Catherine says it's just an insect, while Michael says she has no compassion for others, especially because he believes it's related to her not being vegan. She then says that his decision to adopt veganism was just to provoke his wealthy father, adding that his father provided all the resources to prevent him from truly experiencing suffering, thus depriving him of his urban artistic authenticity. After saying all those words, she distances herself, but ends up stepping on the insect, so she apologizes, but Michael ignores her and leaves. Sometime later, Michael informs his girlfriend of his intention to get a treat, but Catherine reminds him that it will cost $100,000. Despite this, he picks up a green crayon staring at the wall and begins to think about where to start. At this moment, Catherine embraces Michael from behind and asks him to draw her. She then positions herself and Michael begins to move the crayon. She requests him to make the drawing realistically, but he insists that his style is more interesting. Realizing that Michael doesn't want to portray her the way she desires, she becomes irritated and interprets it as disinterest from her boyfriend. Michael continues with the drawing until the last piece of crayon, then washes his hands, leaving Catherine uncomfortable with a stained towel on the floor and crayon residues in the sink. After cleaning up, sitting beside him on the floor, Catherine apologizes for her reaction, reflecting on the situation that is getting out of control. She cheers him up, saying they have only 20 days left to finish the challenge. Upon entering the bathroom, Catherine calls out to Michael upon finding a weapon in the sink. She asks him to check it, but Michael is afraid it might be loaded, so she instructs him to dispose of the weapon in the laundry chute. But a voice reminds them it's meant for clothing only, with no other options. Michael kicks the weapon under the bed. Then the voice warns that the connection is about to start, and Michael tells his girlfriend it's a message from a family member. He is delighted to receive a video from his sister. However, his joyful expression fades when she asks if he was in the immaculate room to forget. The screen then reveals Catherine's father, surprising her. Immediately she screams, wanting the video to end. Despite that, the video continues with her father asking for a meeting. He reveals that he has been away from the streets for a year, currently residing in the St. Mary's shelter. Michael tries to calm the panicking Catherine, but she pushes him away. Isolated in a corner, she begins to cry as her father sings her childhood song. The next day, Michael witnesses Catherine resisting getting out of bed. At that moment, she confesses that the man in the video was her father, admitting to distorting the truth out of shame. The reason for her lie was rooted in the embarrassment she felt as her father wasted money on drinks, resulting in the loss of their home and her school tuition. At some point, he joins Catherine in bed, precisely as the lights go out for the night. Unable to fall asleep, he stares at the clock, reflecting on what is to come. Michael wakes up on the floor and instructs Catherine to collect the reward, emphasizing that it is worth it. He shares with her the information that there are still 18 days left, and that the reward will be helpful in overcoming the situation. Michael expresses concern that Catherine may also be facing the same challenge, but she responds that everything is fine and she will continue with her usual routine. Later, Michael lies on the floor with food spilled beside him. Catherine approaches and advises him to grab a second treat. Michael agrees and heads to the screen to fetch another treat. Surprisingly, a woman enters and introduces herself as Simone. Michael is puzzled about what is happening, and when his girlfriend appears, Simone introduces herself. Simone seems confused and questions him about the room. Michael describes that the room is immaculate, but Catherine doesn't believe that Simone was unaware of it. The woman then reveals herself to be an actress who got the job through her agent, hired for a month. Catherine instructs Michael to give Simone the shirt, and he does so immediately. Simone walks around the room, commenting that it reminds her of the studio she used to frequent. Catherine expresses her dissatisfaction, and Michael assures her that he is not aware of what happened. While admiring the walls, Simone compliments Michael's art and identifies the style he used. At that moment, Catherine calls him, questioning the next steps due to the inconvenient presence of an unknown person. While Catherine develops the next plan, the lights go out, prompting Michael to explain to Simone that every night the lights automatically turn off and there is no extra bed available. Michael suggests to Simone to sleep in the same bed as Catherine. While he settles on the floor, Simone shyly declines and declares that she will stay awake all night. In response, Catherine insists that there is enough space in the bed and encourages Simone to accept the offer. The next morning, Catherine wakes up to discover that Simone is no longer in bed, thinking she may have left. Catherine feels relieved to find her in the bathroom after a shower. While exploring her options, she comes across a small container containing Cloud9 pills. Deciding to give it a try, she takes a pill in the company of Simone. However, Catherine warns her boyfriend to abstain from this experience. Despite that, Simone insists that everyone join in, leading Michael to also ingest a pill. Shortly after, the situation takes a turn as the effects of the pill begin to manifest. Everyone has a good time, until suddenly Michael collapses on the bed watching them dance from a distance. At that moment, he notices bloodstains around him, and as blood flows around him, Mikhail falls into the water struggling. Submerged, he observes Sian jumping into the pool. While trying to reach him, Katharini and Simone shake him to wake him up, both crying. Michael rises ready to leave the room, but Catherine stops him, persuading him to focus on the cash prize. He then lies down on the bed, apologizing to Sean, while Catherine consoles him. Later, Simone asks Catherine about who Sean is, and she reveals that Sean was Michael's younger brother who drowned while under his care. That night, Michael was under the influence of substances, which prevented him from saving Sean. Afterward, Michael washes his face in an attempt to compose himself, and Simone invites him to sit with her. He tries to share his story, but Simone reveals that Catherine had already told her about Sean. Simone then begins to relate the story of her mother who died in a car accident when she was 12. Michael sheds tears, realizing that, in the face of someone's death, love is the only way to ease the pain. As the two exchange words, jealous, Catherine interrupts and asks what is going on between them. Michael calms her down, saying that they are just talking. Catherine scolds Simone for attracting Michael. Simone fights back, calling her insecure, until Michael shouts and leaves. As he leaves, Catherine notes that it was possibly nothing serious. Michael insists that nothing happened between them. However, Catherine notes that Simone reminded her of Michael's ex-girlfriend, which irritates her. She pushes him, resulting in his head hitting the wall and bleeding. Quickly, she claims it was an accident, but he steps back, asking if she has ever been unfaithful to him. He also reminds her that he stopped meeting his supposed wealthy friends because of her discomfort, and didn't enroll in art school due to her depression. He's done all this to ensure her happiness and security. Yet all he gets in return is jealousy. Michael collapses to the floor, realizing the need to leave the room. Catherine asks him to wait and immediately fetches their supplies along with a towel. Putting the towel on his head, she encourages him to eat, but Michael insists on the need for a doctor. Unfortunately, there was no authorization for medical intervention, as stipulated in the contract. While Michael leans weakly against the wall, he realizes that she doesn't care about what happens to him and will let him bleed in exchange for money. However, Catherine denies this. Michael asks her to leave with him, but she continues to refuse. Thus, he stands up and heads towards the red button. Michael asserts that the room is like a mirror, putting them in a situation to be morally and spiritually evaluated. But it's evident they are not matching, regardless of what he claims. Catherine insists they should stay, while he insists that staying in the room is wrong. Catherine remains firm in her decision to stay, but Michael decides to leave, with or without her company. As he approaches the red button, Catherine warns him to stop advancing. When Michael turns around, he finds her holding a trembling gun, insisting that he cannot leave. She argues that his decision to give up millions of dollars is not rational. Despite this, Michael counters that the room is affecting her mind. He then turns around and continues to move towards the red button, presses it, and finally exits to freedom. A voice then thanks him for staying and states that the cash prize drops to $1 million. Upon hearing this, Catherine is devastated and lies down on the floor. Days pass, and Catherine still manages to stay in the room, but she continues to cry, scream, and stare at the wall. 2 days before the end of the competition, she slowly approaches the red button and reaches it. Days later, Michael is running on the street, and to his surprise, he sees Catherine coming out of the Santa Maria building. After awkwardly greeting each other, they apologize for what happened between them. Catherine says she was visiting her father, and as Michael walks towards her car, he asks if she succeeded. She avoids the question and asks about his life. Next to the building, a sign celebrates how the new kitchen of St. Mary's continues its activities thanks to an anonymous benefactor. One day, a new couple appears in the Immaculate Room, Sandy Williams and Jason Wright. They can barely contain their excitement, hoping to win the prize. Observing the place, Sandy hopes that the Immaculate Room will bring significant changes. Subscribe for more videos like this, and leave your like. Thank you for watching.